sauce is the key, we whipping it up. The sauce is the key, we cooking it up. The sauce is the key, we cooking it up. Hey, hey, hey.
All right, welcome back to another edition of The Sauce. I'm Derrick Mains. That's Andrew Kolikoff right there on the other side of the Zoom. I guess I have to pin these a little differently so that hold on, let me work it out here. Let me do my thing. There we go. All right, now we're side by side. We are equals here in facial size, not facial structure, but facial size. We're equal. We don't look like each other. We're not. Nobody's gonna think we're twins. All right, Andrew. Let's talk about. I love this topic that you mentioned ahead of time. So why don't you start into this, and then I'll come into it as well, because I think you've already got a story you want to talk about. So let's talk a little bit about stories that have influenced us, like things that change our
shaped
the way
we are,
that we
and how we pass that wisdom on to the people that we consult with or mentor or both.
Yeah.
I often think about, what were those breakthrough moments in my life, or what were those big ahas? One of the things I've always realized is, life is so much about where we shine the light. I think about this moment in my life where I was in the British Virgin Islands and I was snorkeling in the dead of night. And when you go under the water, it's pitch black. But then when you have the light, you can see literally the beam of light.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that.
In the water and what it's shining on. And everything out here doesn't exist. I mean, it does, but only what you see is where you're shining the light. And to me, that is such a metaphor for life, that we really only see where we're focused, what we're looking for. And we miss the things that are scooting by us that we're also experiencing, but it doesn't really register. And for me, that's often where I found in my life that the answer usually that we're looking for is already presented to us or for us. We just haven't paid attention well enough. And it's usually right underneath our nose.
Yeah. Do you think that's is that a limitation of human, perception and consciousness, right? That there's sort of your focused vision and your peripheral vision, and you're always blind to something, right? I mean, you can never truly, and I think that's why the Buddha talks about enlightenment, right? And disconnection from this world, so that you have a perspective that's at a very different one. I can tell you, there's been lots of, particularly, I think there's a picture someplace of, I think it was one of the NASA early missions of it breaking through the clouds, but the picture was taken from space, showing this little tiny rocket coming up through the clouds. And that is one that sort of blows me away, right? Because all of this stuff that's happening around us, from a perspective, you get up to about 50,000 feet in the atmosphere, and all of it just looks like a bunch of ants running around, if you can even see it at all, right? And that's, I always wonder that about perspective, is it's how do we gain greater perspective? And is it the focus of the flashlight? Or, I mean, do we need a disco ball here instead of a flashlight underwater? What do we got to do, Andrew?
As the world's biggest PR firms will tell you, perception is reality.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. If you were in the market, not that you would be, but if you were in the market to buy a red Volkswagen Beetle, how much do you want to bet that when you go out and drive, you're going to see, you're like, wait a minute, now I'm seeing red Volkswagen Beetles.
Sure, the biases that we
same number that you were experiencing in the past.
Yeah.
But you're just seeing them now.
So let's talk more about that. I mean, it's sometimes we get this forced perspective, right? Where it's an event occurs that forces our perspective shift into a very specific direction, and then we're required to sort of respond to that. And a lot of that is very evolutionary. It is stepping out of the cave and looking to your right and seeing a mountain lion, and then that pattern recognition. Even when there's no mountain lion there, we're still going, is it out there?
A habit of thought, if you think about it, because, how you get shit done is mostly based on your behavior rather than anything else.
Yes.
It's based on how you've done things in the past. I think University of Pennsylvania did a study, and on average, humans have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 85%, I believe, or even higher, of those thoughts were the same as you had the day before.
Yeah.
And of those 85%, the majority of them are actually more negative than positive. But what they interestingly also found was that we can reshape our persistent thoughts, and whether they be positive or negative, through practice. And I think if you apply that to business, and people want those major ahas and breakthroughs. I mean, everybody, who doesn't want a breakthrough in their business, right? Sure. I'll tell you, Derrick, how it always happens for me is I do this regular thing, and some of our audience, they may be rolling their eyes in their head, but some may say, Andrew, you're onto something here. Is every year, at least once or twice a year, I do something that scares the living shit.
I got a story for one yesterday.
In business. I mean, in business. I'm not talking about life, right? But life too is important. And I'm like, where at some point in doing it, you feel, the feeling is you're like rowing a boat in complete blackness, and you don't even know which direction you're going. And all you have is faith in yourself and faith in what you're trying to accomplish, right? And usually when you come out on the other side of that, because really breakthrough only happens in what I call the uncomfortable stuff.
Sure.
When you
you can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. I mean, that's the definition of crazy, right? Yeah.
To extreme discomfort, that's where you'll see other things. That's where you'll be like, holy shit, I never thought of that, and that's where it really happens. And it's most recently for me, Derrick, and you were a part of this actually. And I don't know if I've explained this to you, but do you remember? So for those that are not in Arizona, there's an organization called Arizona Growth Advisors. And basically what they are is Arizona's version of Vistage. They're peer advisory groups where you learn best practices, leadership, and the other people on your roundtable act as a board of advisors.
I'm 64 days away from my next presentation. I have it up here because I'm working on it.
So the founder of that organization has, I don't know, about 120 executives at various tables. And you and I have done the circuit twice. And the second time he came up to me and he wanted me to speak on operations. And I'm like, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I talk to you and you're talking on customer experience.
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, this doesn't make any sense.
Right? So I call you up and I'm like, you're like, what if we traded and we pitched it to him? Well, I pitched it and he was like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. But then I went to him and I'm like, are you really sure you want me to do this customer experience thing? Because I've never spoken on it, and this was a while ago. And he's like, Andrew, isn't that how you've always treated people in your life and business? He's like, who better than you?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, but there's a pressure. This is the uncomfortable part, folks.
Yeah.
Some of the people in those roundtables are sitting on businesses that are $500 million and up.
Sure.
I mean, most of them are not.
Yeah, most of them in that 10, 20, 30, 100 million range, right?
Correct. So there's this pressure that Derrick and I have that goes in the back of my brain. Andrew, you can't fuck this up. You cannot. It's got to be wow. I don't just seek to solely inform. I seek to inspire, wow, and deliver a gold nugget that they can instantly take with them. Yeah. And anything less than that is not acceptable for me. So I prepare this thing, right? I've never done it before. I can't fuck up, right? This is what I'm thinking. I can't fuck this up. I got myself so uncomfortable that I actually a week before got sick. That's how uncomfortable, how upset I was. And then when I went and did it, it was such a hit.
Yeah.
And then as I was preparing for it, it hit me. I have been in the culture and leadership development space for years.
Yeah.
I never really considered customer experience, and selling culture and leadership development is a hard sell.
It is. It's a tough one.
Because people don't have to have that. They have to have accounting. They have to have operations.
Sales, yeah, right.
They have to have those things. They don't necessarily have to have it. And then but what it made me realize was customer experience is tied to that. It has to match your values. And if you don't have them, you need to revisit them and how that affects the culture. So I realized that prospective businesses actually are much more interested in buying customer experience, especially during a downturn.
Yeah, sure.
Because your lowest hanging fruit are the referrals and repeat.
It goes back to the outcomes conversation that we had, right? You want referrals. You want people to return.
What I never realized just from doing the gig was that I needed to make a pivot in my business.
Interesting.
Out of the uncomfortable was, duh, Andrew.
Yeah.
This is the answer. Now I could still do culture and leadership development, but this up front. To me, that was the aha and the breakthrough moment for me. And it was thrilling and exciting. And I don't think I would have realized it unless I literally got myself to that incredible, uncomfortable point and was willing to speak on that.
Well, I'm so glad. This was my plan all along, Andrew. I was working on this for 2 years. Isn't that funny how it sort of works out? And I do think it's important. And this is really, I think, the great topic for this podcast is intentionally doing things that make you uncomfortable. If you are in a position where you are comfortable and you are, things are going well and everything that you're doing is turning to gold, that's not a good place to be because you will stagnate. And I think you can look at so many big companies, even if you look at Wall Street and you look at, the S&P 500 and look at the companies that were on it 50 years ago versus today. I mean, those companies just don't exist anymore. Human society still exists, but the Pan Ams of the world, I mean, that's not even a thing anymore, right? The Kmarts of the world, the Searses of the world. I mean, those companies are all long gone, and they've been replaced by competitors that weren't significantly better than them. They just didn't understand the pivot. Blockbuster is that great example of a company that just did not understand the pivot because they got so comfortable in being so profitable that they never had to worry about the next thing. So for me, go ahead.
And that reminds me, I think there was a study done. I don't remember who did it, but I remember reading it. And they asked Fortune 500 CEOs this question: what one quality in a person, in your inner circle and your outer circle, is it that you value the most? And you would think it would be honesty, integrity, trust, communication, but actually it was curiosity. And I was very surprised by that. But the more I thought about it, I realized if everybody's curious, you're going to be more nimble. You're going to be like, well, we need to move in this direction. Yeah. So I just found that so interesting.
But it's interesting. Let me interrupt there for a second. The interesting about curious people is most CEOs see them as a pain in the ass. So it's funny that what CEOs are actually asking for is, I need more people to push back. I need more people to be a pain in the ass. I need more people to be a thorn in my side, because that is what is going to make us better. So the thing that, your mother always told you not to be, the thing that every boss that you've ever worked for that wasn't a visionary, told you that, that got rid of you because of. Interestingly, that is the characteristic that businesses need so badly, because we have bred it out of ourselves. We have taught it out of ourselves. It's why, listen, I mean, a lot of people know I'm not a huge fan of secondary education. And I actually think secondary education, I didn't go to college. I've been talking about this a lot more recently. I never knew anybody that went to college till I was like 26 or 27 years old. Right? I mean, it's just so crazy, right? I mean, now you came from institution and background.
I have 2 graduate degrees. I'm a former university adjunct professor.
My dad was sort of well known because he went to 1 semester at college, and it was like, well, he's a college educated guy. I mean, he went for 1 semester.
back to what you said.
Yeah.
I think we try. I mean, what we did, I think, culturally in business is that we were so focused on answers that we forgot that it's really all about the best questions. But it's
Andrew,
more
this
about
is so
questions,
relevant. Yes.
which is curiosity. It's more, I would say answers versus questions. I think culturally, everybody's looking for solutions. Think about all the consultants that ends in solutions.
Yeah.
And to me, the best consultants ask the best questions.
100%. And listen, I will tell you that if you're a CEO and you are not following the trend line right now on AI, I am very concerned for you, because we are 6 weeks into, and I posted this on LinkedIn 4 days after I noticed it. I'm like, we have BC, before the Common Age, AD, December 15th, 2022 is start of year one of the modern age. And I'm very serious. 500 years from now, we won't be talking about, oh, this is 2523. We'll be saying this is your 500 of the modern age, because what happened in December of this last year was literally like the creation of the wheel. It is that big of a technological advance. And we now have over 600 AI companies in the last 6 weeks that have come out. Many of them are already doing millions of dollars in revenue. They're passing the bar. They are arguing cases in court. They are radically altering the trajectory of business. And
Also
here's
in
the
medicine.
crazy. Oh, in medicine. I mean, I'm working on a project right now.
Diagnosis for doctors, which they don't, they only use it secondarily now.
Yes.
As advice. They don't use it as the diagnosis, but they're now using AI for diagnosis.
Yeah. And I will tell you that dealing with Siri and Alexa in the last month has made me realize that the AIs that we have coming in the coming months, we're talking about things like Alexa and Siri being completely obsolete and actually a joke in like 60 days compared to these language profiles that are happening. And here's the interesting thing. What's so fascinating about it is the people that are dominating the AI space right now are people that know how to query and ask questions, because they have understood that the AI can hold 800,000 thoughts at the same time. And you can ask it to extrapolate. And I'm not talking about like, this is we have to reprogram people, because right now we're so used to going to Google and saying, what is a good Thai, recipe, and it returns all these results that aren't relevant. You ask an advanced AI this, but you ask it in the right thing. I like medium spice. I prefer flat noodles. I like savory flavors. I like nuts incorporated into it. Can develop a completely and totally unique recipe that's never been done before that is perfectly suited to your flavor profile. And this is what's so fascinating, because I think that everybody has missed this point. And that is that what we always said about AI is, well, look at all the movies for the last 50 years about artificial intelligence and robots. Well, they'll never be creative. They can never be artists. They can never write music. They can never create recipes. They can't do anything creative. What are the first things that it completely wiped out? All the creative fields are gone now. I mean, even to the point you go on Reddit, on the art subreddit, they don't know what to do with themselves, because all of a sudden people are submitting real art and everybody's going, well, that must be AI. And then people are submitting AI and they're going, well, that must be human. I mean, this is happening with music. It's happening with writing. People are still telling me, oh yeah, I can tell an AI, I can tell what an AI wrote versus what an AI didn't write. I'm like, you're wrong. You're just wrong. The stuff that you think is the AI is probably the human being. So it's interesting what's happening. And the people that are curious, the people who went to school and were told to shut up and sit there and learn, are now at this massive disadvantage because they have not been curious enough. So they have got to force themselves out of that state. What I did is I joined an improv class. I went to the first one last night. I am so terrible at this.
Come on, I didn't even know that.
Dude, I was awful. I mean, you think I'm a good communicator? It's because I rehearse everything. Like, I have hundreds of little snippets and stories that I can draw from. But when I stand up on stage and the person across from me says, Snoop Dogg and I are getting a divorce, I'm like, I have no recall.
I want to know something. You just hit on a subject that, to me, I can't think of anything more scary. Seriously, anything more scary than getting up on stage And wait a minute, not that. Add this to it, because I got up on stage and played.
Yeah, music. I mean, I'm great at getting up on stage, but I
get up on stage and make people laugh.
Yeah, I think to me, getting up on stage and make people laugh, I think I could do that. I think it's the unknown that when you stand up on an improv stage, there is no agenda. Like everybody is equals.
But the result is supposed to equal laughter.
Yeah.
And if it bombs, there's nothing like that uncomfortable feeling of bombing. Yeah. And the chances of bombing are high.
I think they're less in improv because it's so fast paced, right? And what I found very interesting last night, and it was a very diverse group of people there. And there was one guy, I found him really fascinating. He and I had a couple of different conversations, and he was very open and vocal about him being socially awkward, which made him incredibly funny in an improv situation because his responses to things are so off the wall that you're just like, how could you come up with that? Like, that is not the way the human brain thinks. But because he has trouble being socially awkward, he's a master at this right out of the gate because he is thinking crazy, weird things like all the time, right? He's thinking differently than we are.
And I think that's where, I mean, this whole show is predicated on aha moments and breakthroughs. Yeah, sure. And, everything is context. I think it's human nature to want yes, no, black, white, up, down. We want simple. But the reality is, just even like the Heisenberg principle, nothing is simple, man. Just when you think where, an atom is supposed to be, then it's not there anymore, right? Yeah. It's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Yeah. Nothing really is as it seems.
The Nobel Prize this last year was awarded for that thing. Yeah. I mean, they've proven that Schrodinger's cat is actually the case. If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? It didn't actually even fall. That's the crazy thing now. Right. We know that it didn't fall.
If that's something you're looking for in your business and your life, I mean, the very simple answer is go do something that scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
But the context is what Derrick and I are giving you with answers versus questions, with, all those other things. I mean, the good news from the University of Pennsylvania study is we can actually change who we are. They say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, it's proven that you actually can.
Sure.
I mean, there is a woman who I think at the age of 68 started going to the gym, and now she's like a world record holder in her 70s. And she's like this incredible person. And she didn't start lifting weights till she was 68.
Come on, man. You're a Jew. Moses was 80 when he finally got off his ass and finally.
And the stutterer. And he got all the people free. Exactly. Talk about the odds there, man.
Know, right? When you don't even start out till you're 80 and actually even pursuing your dreams.
Well,
right?
Supposedly he had an order. A public speaker that spoke for him by the name of Aaron.
Yeah, his brother. He was able to. But I think that's a great point, though, too. It's like, I'm a consultant, and I'm really big on hiring other consultants. And I try to do it every week. I try to talk to another consultant. I mostly hire them off Fiverr or Upwork. And I spend a few minutes a day just looking on there and looking for interesting topics. And I'll find somebody that does, public speaking consulting, and they want $100 for a 60-minute session. I jump on with them. Why do I do that? Because see, Andrew, if I was to ask you for the opinion, you have all of these biases about me from knowing me for 15 years. You know my strengths, my weaknesses, what I'm good at. You assume that I'm very confident in these things. This person doesn't make any of those assumptions because they don't know me. And I will tell you, I learn more from that than I ever learned from asking for feedback.
It's so interesting because I read that there's a trend that leaders who typically hire coaches are actually now hiring two. One that's like a young kid, and one that's a seasoned veteran that's the mentor kind of coach, but one that's more like the person at the bottom rung of your company actually coaching them.
That's interesting.
And they're finding the results that they really are able to understand a broader consciousness and mindset through getting a person you'd least expect to actually coach you. along with another one. So it speaks to what you just said.
Yeah, totally. And I really think that's a really interesting point. I mean, it's really funny. One of my objectives for this year is to really build up my social following, not from a sense of selling anything, right? I don't care as much about that, but I just want to build my social following to get the word out. And interestingly, I started talking to a couple social media coaches, and they were like, oh, your content would kill it in Southeast Asia and India. They're like, focus on building your following there. And I'm like, wait, what? And they were like, yeah, they love American entrepreneurism. They all emulate this American entrepreneurism, and very few American entrepreneurs talk to that audience, and they don't bring it down to that level of that audience. We are so self-centered on thinking that the 300 million people that live in the US are the audience. That's like 120, that's like 5% of the whole world. Like, we're ignoring everybody. This is great.
Derrick, it's always a pleasure, man.
It's always good. And thank you all for listening to The Sauce. And until next time.
The sauce is the key, we cooking it up. Hey,